What's up, everybody? It's your boy Sterling from ENT. Welcome back to ENT Fantasy Football. Feels so great to say that as always. And today I got a banger video for you guys. This is my must-add players of Week 7 of the fantasy football season. So make sure you guys go down below, like and subscribe, comment on this video, and without further ado, let's get right into my must-add pickups for Week 7. So my first player on this list is a wide receiver, and it's a rookie for the Indianapolis Colts, Alec Pierce. Now, Alec Pierce, the first couple weeks of the season, he wasn't really featured at all. And now, the last 4 weeks, he's been very involved in the Colts offense. And this past week, Matt Ryan looked a lot better throwing the football, so that gives me a little bit more added confidence in this offense. And here's some numbers for you guys. So, Alec Pierce is 53% rostered only in Yahoo Fantasy Football Leagues, which is obviously about half rosters, so he's still out there a lot in waiver wires. And in the past 4 weeks, which is basically since he's been involved in the offense, Alec Pierce is averaging 10.5 fantasy points per game in half-point PPR scoring, and he's also averaging just under 7 targets a game in that time span, which is good. And obviously, he's a rookie. His role is only going to continue to grow from this point on as the season goes on. And you guys have probably seen that in my waiver wire videos. It tends to be a lot of rookies and a lot of younger players because rookies, there's just a lot of unforeseen potential in these rookies. We don't know what their true ceiling is. So I prefer to take shots on these rookies more so than like a veteran who has been maybe he's in a new situation, like a guy like Zay Jones. I've seen a lot of people talking about Zay Jones recently as a waiver wire pickup. And sure, Zay Jones is involved. He is getting production, but at the same time, we know who Zay Jones is. You know what I mean? Like Zay Jones, he might be getting some volume, but he's not going to be a breakout player or a player that's truly going to put you over the edge in fantasy football. And with a guy like Alec Pierce, we don't know what his potential is just yet. This offense is looking better as the weeks go on, and as is Matt Ryan. So I would take a shot on Alec Pierce, especially with how much he's been involved as of late. And for the next player of this video, it's a tight end, the only tight end of this video, and it's Robert Tonyan, the Green Bay Packers tight end. And so Robert Tonyan, he's been fantasy relevant in years past, strictly basically for his touchdown upside. I remember like it was either last season or 2 seasons ago, he had a crazy blow-up game where he had like either 3 or 4 touchdowns, and he just went crazy. So we've seen before Robert Tonyan has touchdown upside, and that has continued to show this season as he has found the end zone a few times. But this past week with Rondell Cobb out. Now, this is the biggest point that I want to make. With Rondell Cobb out, because Rondell Cobb is dealing with an ankle injury, and he is still going to miss a little bit more time. And this past week, Robert Tonyan had 12 targets. 12 targets at the tight end position. He had a whopping 10 receptions. And so far this season, he's averaging 5.3 targets a game over the entire season. So with about a 6-week sample size, he's averaging 5.3 targets a game, which is very good for the tight end position. Aaron Rodgers, I want people connected to Aaron Rodgers. Even though he has had a slight decline in performance this year, I would attribute that to his receivers not being as good as they once were. But Robert Tonyan has that continuity with Aaron Rodgers. And he's been with Aaron Rodgers in the past. So we've seen he has touchdown upside. And if he continues to be more involved like this without Rondell Cobb, because without Rondell Cobb, we've seen a little bit more opportunity has opened up for Robert Tonyan. And I would pick up Robert Tonyan if you're in need of a tight end, because it's rough out here. It's rough out here, man, with the tight ends. It's really rough. And so if you don't have like that week-to-week tight end, like one of the top guys, I would take a flyer on Robert Tonyan. Now, the next guy is a guy that I've talked about in my last 2 waiver wire videos, and now this makes it 3, and it's Rondell Moore. Now, Rondell Moore, this season he's averaging 7.6 targets a game. He's coming off a game where he just had 10 targets. And what I want to note is that Hollywood Brown is going to miss an extended period of time. And DeAndre Hopkins is going to be coming back, and they just did add Robbie Anderson, so there is a little bit more receiver competition as there once was. Obviously, Hollywood Brown's out of the picture for like 6 weeks, I believe, maybe a little bit longer. But I believe it's going to take a little bit of time for DeAndre Hopkins and Robbie Anderson to be worked into this offense. And for the foreseeable future, if Rondell Moore is getting 7.5 targets a game, 7.6 to be exact, that is amazing. That is great. And what I also do want to note is that I noted this in my last video, so you guys are probably getting tired of this, my last waiver wire video. Rondell Moore is going to be playing primarily in the slot. So as I just mentioned, with Hopkins and Anderson getting worked in, they're not really going to be that's not really going to be a negative effect for Rondell Moore, strictly because he plays in the slot and he's going to be their main slot receiver regardless of what other receivers are playing. So Rondell Moore, he's been involved, 7.6 targets a game, had 10 targets last week, and his targets and his routes ran per game are continuing to go up as the season is going on. And so Rondell Moore is very interesting to me. Obviously, he's not a starter yet. You might want to plug and play him here depending on the matchup, depending on what bye weeks you have. But Rondell Moore, to me, is a stash. This next guy is a running back, and it's really interesting to me how this guy literally just got picked up off the streets, and it's Latavius Murray. Now, Latavius Murray just got picked up pretty much off the streets. The man was on his couch, and he comes in, and he's now the lead back for the Denver Broncos. Now, is that going to continue? I'm not sure. But the way that he was used last week and how Melvin Gordon was basically just benched. Like, Melvin Gordon came out and said, I'm not dealing with an injury. I feel like I could help this football team. I feel like I could have been in there and made a difference. But he just was not played at all. He's 100% in the doghouse. And so Latavius Murray has a chance to get a lot of workload in this offense. Last week, he had the vast majority of the running back workload for the Denver Broncos, and he's looked pretty solid so far. In his 2 games played this year, he's averaging 4.7 yards a carry, which is very efficient, and now he is on the Denver Broncos, and unfortunately their offense has looked absolutely atrocious so far this season, and I am hoping that it will get better. I'm hoping. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I feel like at this point it has to get better. We've been saying this for weeks now, I know we have, but it has to get better. There's no way it gets worse. So I'm going to project that this offense is going to be getting better. And I'm hoping they figure things out because Latavius Murray has the chance to be not necessarily a workhorse, because I don't think Melvin Gordon's going to be just thrown aside the whole season. He's eventually going to be getting more work in this offense. But for the foreseeable future, Latavius Murray is looking like a running back that you can start in your flex position. I wouldn't say he's like a top 24 running back for fantasy, but he's a solid RB3, I would say, especially if the workload continues to look like this and Melvin Gordon stays on the sideline. So I have 3 players that I feel like are worth mentioning. These 3 players are not as highly regarded to me as those other 4 guys, but I have Kenyon Drake. I think he's a speculative ad. Obviously, we saw he had an amazing game this past week. He got way more work than J.K. Dobbins, and he was also a lot more efficient than J.K. Dobbins. The only thing is that they are continuing to work Dobbins in more, and they are, like, the past few weeks, they've been kind of limiting Dobbins because of his injury, because of all the structural damage, and just the catastrophic injury that J.K. Dobbins had. I do think that they're going to work him in more, and he has been limited. But also, Gus Edwards is coming back pretty soon, and now, obviously, like the same thing with J.K. Dobbins, he's going to be limited for a while. But I think the long-term meaning the rest of this season value of Kenyon Drake is not as good as people are making it out to be. But I think he is worth a mention in this video. Another guy that's worth a mention is D'Onta Foreman. Now, D'Onta Foreman's the backup running back for the Panthers, and the only way that this guy is worth picking up is if Christian McCaffrey gets traded. And there's been a lot of rumors about it lately. So if you need a running back and if you have an open roster slot in your fantasy football, on your fantasy team, or if you have a player that you don't need, D'Onta Foreman is worth a speculative ad until I believe it's the November 6th trade deadline. If Christian McCaffrey isn't traded by November 6th, then he's just a handcuff. But if Christian McCaffrey does get traded, then D'Onta Foreman is in line to be a solid RB3, I guess, around that range. And the last guy of this video is another tight end, Greg Dulcich for the Denver Broncos. Now, this past week, Albert O, I'm just going to call him Albert O. I'm not going to say the man's full last name, but the tight end for the Denver Broncos, you know who I'm talking about. Albert O has not been playing that much at all for this team, and Greg Dulcich has pretty much played his way into the starting lineup, and he had an 81% route participation last week, so he's pretty much getting the vast majority of the tight end workload. And yeah, I think Greg Dulcich, he was a little bit productive last week, but he is worth a mention. I wouldn't even say he's worth an ad, but just keep your eye on Greg Dulcich because I think he could have fantasy value for the rest of this season, depending on how these next few weeks go. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. That's going to be it for this one. Make sure you guys go down below, like this video, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. You guys already know. We got a bunch of videos dropping for you guys. Buy low videos, sell high videos, waiver wire videos, tips and tricks videos coming very soon. We got underrated players, overrated players, panic button, all this types of stuff, all this type of fantasy football stuff. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys stay tuned for more and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much. I'm out of here.